Well, it's Tuesday, and you know what that means. So, we got another episode we're going to review and talk about on this episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Welcome, everybody, to Deleted Wrestle Zone. All things that is pro wrestling from AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, matches, wrestlers, and championships. I'm your host, J Rod here. So, as you all know, today is Tuesday Wrestling. As you know, it's another episode. We'll review AEW Dark and Impact Wrestling. Now, if you guys are probably wondering, don't I normally review NWA? True, but however, we haven't seen anything new with them. Reason is that I don't know what's going on with that front. I know they're still active. I'm still trying to figure that out. But for now, let's just review the latest episodes for both AEW Dark and Impact Wrestling. All right, first match on AEW Dark is between a dinosaur and a dragon, Luchasaurus and Brandon Cutler. Now, this has become one of those interesting stories that kind of developed on Being the Elite. Now, if you guys haven't seen Being the Elite, you should watch it. It's pretty good where they throw in some content that fits into it. But this is one of those matches where you see, okay, Brandon Cutler, who's been currently undefeated in his matches, now he's facing a guy who's a dinosaur who has a bachelor's degree in medieval history. So it was a good match. I like it. It was pretty darn good. I love it, especially when it's like a dinosaur versus a dragon. So pretty much. But however, who won? The dinosaur won. Next match we have El Australiano versus Sammy Guevara. So you're saying, is this an Australian Mexican? Actually, no. This guy El Australiano, I found out who he really is, and my suspicions were right. Is Australian Suicide. If you guys aren't familiarized with him, he is a popular wrestler down in Mexico. That's why he calls himself El Australiano. But he's been living down there. The match between him and Sammy Guevara was very interesting. It did show Sammy more character than we should. I know some of you saying, but isn't he on Dynamite? Well, he's either in and or. We will see him this Wednesday when he teams with uh, Jake Hager. But the match ended great with Sammy winning. But however, he feels that when in his post match he gave like an interesting promo where he said that he's worked. It doesn't matter if he's in Dark or Dynamite. Sooner or later, him and Hager are gonna win the match. That which members of the inner circle is gonna go after the AEW Tag Team Championships. That is something we're dying to see. Next match we have Nick Komoroto taking on Scorpio Sky. Another good match. This is more of like a bigger guy versus a very athletic guy. I love how this thing with this match went as well. It showed more character with Scorpio Sky. I mean, Nick Komoroto, if you guys don't know who he is, he's one of those guys that they hired coming from the independents, since much of the independent promotions are not active, but that's what it's been like. But him, but excuse me, but having this match, it did show Scorpio Sky that he's reaching for the sky. It's only a matter of time before he reaches the top. Next match is a women's match. We have Marty Daniels taking on Shanna. There's been a lot of more changes with Shanna since then. I don't know if it's the, how do I say, the character development is because we know we haven't seen her for months, probably before late of last year. You guys probably ask yourselves where she was the entire time. Well, she's been stuck in France due to restrictions, but she did return back. But first, she had to be quarantined for 2 weeks before going back to AEW. But she won by using. But here's the thing: she made a bot. There was a botch in her latest finisher move, which is like a suplex type move. First try didn't work. Second try it did work. So uh, it was very unusual, but I was glad that she was able to pick it up and try to move forward with it. Next match is a tag team match. We have Baron Black and Mike Verna taking on the Butcher and the Blade along with the Bunny. Now, much of this match, the Bunny was getting more and more involved in this, while the referee is not even looking. But it did show more that the Butcher and the Blade are a team that should be taken seriously and they should be more afraid of. I mean, since they first arrived, that's what they've been doing. And I feel like now they're restarting that type of way aggression that we've been seeing from the very beginning when they first arrived. So they won the match as always. Next match, we have a six-man tag team match. We have Ryzen, Adam Priest, and Varian Morales taking on the Gun Club, Billy Ace, no, Austin, and of course Colton. Uh, Match was alright. Um, Forgot much of the details, but I'll tell you anyway. The Gun Club won on that one as well. Next up, we have a very interesting match. We have four Puerto Ricans facing off against each other in a tag team match. We have John Cruz teaming with Danny Limelight taking on Inner Circle members Proud and Powerful. You probably ask yourselves, really? Yeah, all four of these individuals are from Brooklyn. Danny Limelight, who I know, he's originally from Brooklyn. They're Puerto Ricans, but they're all no Danny Limelight's from Brooklyn, but he lives in L.A. John Cruz, he lives in Florida, so it's kind of cool. Um, but I kind of figured it was gonna end with Santana Ortiz winning the match, but this has also one of those matches where we're seeing like a warm up for them because we do know they're gonna participate in that three-way match for whoever's gonna be the number one contender for the AEW tag team titles. Then we get a little surprise visit from Peter Avalon for his Pretty Peter um, collegiate or whatever pageant or proclamation pageant. Something about the photo where I think he gave to Lee Johnson. So basically, that still goes on. But however, Lee Johnson did appear, but this time with his partner Aaron Solo to take on Private Party. Now, as you know, recently Private Party had to deal with the total crap that Matt Hardy's been putting out, which was kind of interesting. He's trying to turn him to be more aggressive, stop showboating, just get the job done, that type of horde deal, which is kind of fits. But sooner or later, we might see a moment where Private Party might turn on Matt Hardy and be being who they are. But they did win the match anyway. Next match we have Alex Gracia versus Big Swole. It's kind of funny. I Big Swole. I've always been a fan of her. She's awesome. Alex Gracia. She seems like she is developing more. Because she's been mostly appearing. Like I know I've been following her on her social media. There are fans that are saying when is she's going to be signed. Some are hoping AEW. You probably ask why. Well, it's most logical, because if you guys didn't know this, she was on the tryout for WWE, but this happened before the start when the pandemic was taken so serious, but she was sent home. But it was an interesting match. She even pulled off the 619, but it did not stop Big Swole, and she knocked her out, and she won the match. So Big Swole won this one. Next match, we have Zach Clayton taking on Sonny Kiss. If you guys know who Zach Clayton, he is the boyfriend of JWoww of the Jersey Shore. No one knows that. I knew about that because I recognized him. I seen him on the damn thing. But however, I always knew Sonny was going to win. So Sonny continues to win won the match. As always, that split move that he normally does. Next match, another tag team. We got Casey Navarro. Casey Navarro with AJ Kirsch taking on Top Flight. Um, it was a pretty good match, especially with guys doing high flying things. But however, in this particular match, it ended with Top Flight winning. Next match we have a women's tag team match: Tesha Price and Catalina Perez taking on Ivelisse and Diamante. I can tell you, Ivelisse and Diamante won because they're the most great dynamic duo ever watching. I've always been a fan of those two. Then we got another tag team match: Fuego del Sol teaming with the captain Sean Dean, taking on the Diss Track Morons, the Acclaim. Uh, I mean, this one it was pretty interesting. Fuego and Sean Dean, like they seemed like they got along great, but it wasn't enough to defeat guys like the Acclaim. Basically, they're trying to make a name in themselves since they believe that they were cheated out for the AEW tag team titles, but they weren't. They they just cheated themselves in order to win, but it didn't work. Then we got the final match. We had Chaos Project taking on Lucha Brothers. This one was a very interesting match. You know, Luther, he always uses Serpentico as a weapon. I thought it was a very interesting dynamic to see with these two. But however, because of that, it wasn't enough to put down the Lucha Brothers, which I'm a fans. I even met Pentagon before, which he's awesome. So I think that's it now with AEW Dark. Let's get started with Impact Wrestling right now. Okay, so we got Impact Wrestling now. To be honest with you, there was less matches, but more of the storylines being presented in this particular episode. And the great thing is, I'll explain more when we get started. We'll go from start to finish. Last Saturday, after Hard to Kill, it appears that Kenny will not be in Impact for quite a while, but it wouldn't be the last time to see him there, according to Don Callis. So this happened while they were celebrating both Kenny and the Good Brothers. So we just gotta wait and see what's next, what the Invisible Hand has in store. Now, the first match was Eric Young being accompanied by his stablemates of Violent by Design, Diener and Joe Dorian, taking on Rhino, who's being accompanied by cousin Jake. Now, this particular match, it was mostly about Eric Young proving a point, saying that the business is sick, the sport is sick, that they're here to cure it by inciting chaos and violence. Even though cousin Jake tried everything in his power to help his cousin Diener to get away from Eric Young, but it's not enough. And because of that, Eric Young took out Rhino by dismantling his leg or his ankle, whatever he had, but it did allow him to win the match prior before this thing that he did. He had him in the ankle lock or so, but he wouldn't let it go, so he wanted to take him out. Now, recently, as you know what happened in the storyline, Who Shot Johnny Bravo, Larry D was, in fact, was framed for attempting to kill Johnny E. Bravo. But however, it was turned out it was Lawrence D who did it. What happened next? AC Romero spent the part of a few weeks trying to determine that Larry D had nothing to do with it. He believes he was set up. So he's trying to find out more information. So in Hard to Kill, he went to the women's locker room, and then later he told uh, Johnny E. Bravo the truth, that Larry D was set up, because he did say he found the fragrance that allowed Larry D to turn to Lawrence D to come out. So they even approached this to Dreamer. So he tells him, I am expert in fingerprints. So basically he's telling him he knows who set up Larry D. And that's the cliffhanger. We'll get to that in a bit. Now, as you know, the Good Brothers showed up celebrating the fact that they won their six man. All of a sudden, Chris Sabin shows up saying that they didn't lose their tag team titles. They were never pinned. Neither was Sabian or Shelley. But however, the Good Brothers says you don't have a tag team partner. But he did brought a partner for the night, or someone to step in, someone who knows tag team, and that is James Storm. I thought it was a pretty good promo with James Storm saying you got Chris Sabian, who is a, um, a tag team champion, X Division champion, world champion. Me, I'm just a simple man who drinks and all this. Now, the moment we thought it was gonna get good, the biggest surprise of them all, we just saw the return of Matt Hardy alongside Private Party. I did not expect this. I'm sure some of you guys are like probably wondering how. I think many people have been saying, where we're going to see more wrestlers from from AEW making appearances in Impact Wrestling. Well, looks like we may see that. So, however, this was more about who will get a chance for the Impact Wrestling World Tag Team title. So, however, the Good Brothers made it clear they were going to stand back and see who's going to win. So Sabian and Storm were one team and facing off against the Private Party to be who will be determined to be the number one contenders. That was a pretty good idea how to handle it. Now, as you know, this past Saturday in Hard to Kill, we did saw the surprise appearance of Matt Cardona, formerly known as Zack Ryder. It appears that he may be now a full-time member of the roster. Now, some of you probably ask, I thought he was a B in AEW. Well, that's up to him. We could say he would have been a good fit with, but however, it would make a little bit of desire for the other younger wrestlers. But it worked, and he says he's not there just to prove a point or anything. He just is there for anything. Like he's ready for a fight, not only to prove to the fans that he belongs in a wrestling ring, that he is meant to be there too for himself, which is cool. Now, while Tennille Dashwood and Caleb were hanging out, they were interrupted by Fire and Flava, which is Kiera Hogan and Tennille and Tasha Steelz. They are trying to stir things up. Like they want to do a little festival. Now, the moment they tried, they got surprised by none other than Johnny Swinger. As you know, Swinger took the fanny pack that belonged to Tasha Steelz. And it had the money right there. A little how to say compartment that she kept. And then Fallah Boss shows up and he reminded the Hogan and Steelz that they took the money from him. But however, they were interrupted by the man who calls himself the most professional wrestler, saying he doesn't like he thinks that people doing all this nonsense it's unprofessional, and he thinks his way is more professional. But they later booked themselves in a match. Now, the next match we had is a women's tag team match. We have Kimberly and Susan along with Deonna Purrazzo taking on Jordynne Grace and Jazz. This was a really good match, but it did show a different side of Susan, who is more smarter than anybody, even though they were expecting Susie to come back, but they got Susan instead. But this one is more where, okay, Susan's more smarter. Now, Deonna Purrazzo may have the Impact's Knockouts champion. Is it possible we could see Kimberly and Susan obtain the Knockouts Tag Team Championship? We may never know. Now, during an interview, Taya Valkyrie, her move, like they're saying, what's next for her? She was about to say, and that's when the mystery began. It was revealed it was Taya Valkyrie who shot, or say framed, Larry D to do her bidding. Basically, she was behind who shot Bravo. She did it only to save Rosemary. And of course, that's when they took her. They asked her what's going to happen to her. She might end up this or that. Rosemary even confronted her before they threw her out of the building. She asked her why. She was protecting her. She was being a good friend. And she said the best moments of her life now was being friends with Rosemary, which made Rosemary happy, but at the same time breaks her heart that she's gone. So we'll see what happens. But I will explain more about Taya Valkyrie at the news updates. And of course, Crazy Steve showed up to give her comfort. Now, once again, AEW bought another advertisement for their show, but this time it had a surprise twist. It was revealed Tony Khan was there, but not he wasn't alone. He had a familiarized former TNA original, ECW original, Jerry Lynn. So he was there too. So it was a surprise, but he did state he was going to be at ringside. I was like, wow. But I predicted he was going to watch the main event, which I'll get there. Now, Rich Swann, for the past couple weeks, he's been tormented by Moose, who Moose has been dealing with this whole thing where he wants a shot of the title. Now, he knows that the Impact title hasn't been getting a lot of recognition, but he wanted to give him a title shot now. But however, Moose is saying, you don't make the decisions, I do. So instead, they meleeed. So the real question is, when will this match take place? We just got to wait and see when that happens. Now, as you know, the X Division title has been making headways. Scott D'Amore was in his office, but here comes the no good Rohit Raju, who's been saying that he wants a title shot. Here comes TJP with the title. Now, as you know, Rohit Raju's been playing these messed up, crazy ways to ensure he wins. So Scott D'Amore played fire. So he said, we all know Manik was TJP. What were you so worked up about? So basically they're playing this game and they said, you get your title shot. But later that's when TJP tells him that Scott says, should we tell him that he won't be fighting for the X Division title? He'll figure it out. Which is the same thing that it happened with Rohit with Jordan Grace. So basically they're playing fire with fire to give him a taste of his own medicine. Now, once again, Fire and Flava got in the mess to try to start things up. They need something for their little fest they're throwing. They ask Alicia if she can MC. Alicia says she can. Then, of course, here comes the ref, but he was not having it. But here comes Havoc and Nevaeh. So basically, they're avoiding them. So it's because it seems like they don't want to put the titles on the line. Now, once again, we get to the next match, which is Brian Myers versus Falaba. Now, it seems like Falaba could have won this match, but however, the so-called professional wrestler decided to give a kick in the groin onto Falaba to win. So, but it didn't end right there. But I'll get to that in a bit. Well, let's get to it right now. As soon as Eddie Edwards, we all know he went through hell. He wasn't ready, medical cleared. All of a sudden, he's saying, oh, look, Eddie doesn't have any wounds. He's fine. It's me you have to worry about. So basically, he tried to act like he's more important than Eddie. I mean, Eddie been through hell in his match at the Barbed Wire Massacre. So they decided, let's have a match. So that's what it happened. Now, there was an interview with Ace Austin and Madman Fulton. Now, Ace Austin was upset and Hard to Kill. He was asked to sit into commentary on the opening show with Josh Alexander and Brian Myers. And of course, he felt that he should have been in the card for the X Division title. But it didn't happen. But later he was confronted by Josh Alexander. He tried to start a fight with him, and Madman Fulton was making sure it didn't happen. But here comes Matt Cardona out of the blue, giving him a helping hand. So we got Cardona and Alexander taking on both Austin and Fulton. But it was later revealed that next week those two will be teaming up to face off against Ace Austin and Madman Fulton. Now then we get to the number one contenders match for the Impact Tag Team titles. Chris Sabin and James Storm taking on Private Party along with Matt Hardy. Match was pretty interesting. Much of it you see Matt Hardy trying to tell them, don't do this, do this. Trying to tell them how to be a tag team. Try not to showboat too much. But in the middle of this, Tony Khan was right there watching. But you can see some of the commentators saying to make them sick to see that Tony Khan is there. The enemies are in Gates, and not only that, Jerry Lynn is on the other side of that. But one thing led to another. The crazy move. Jerry Lynn helped Private Party to win their match to ensure. So basically, it kind of ended that way. And then there was a melee with all three tag teams in there. So it's kind of messy melee that ended for Impact Wrestling, but I can't wait to see what's going to happen not only for tomorrow for Dynamite, but also the following week. So I think that's it. Let's talk about the news updates relating to Taya Valkyrie. All right, as you know of the recent story that took place this past Impact Wrestling episode, Tell Valkyrie was taken to jail for the attempted murder of Johnny E. Bravo. Well, it just revealed now that her contract with Impact Wrestling has already expired. Instead of going to LA, where she lives, she flown to Florida. Now, it's already been revealed that WWE has a sudden interest in Taya Valkyrie. Now, there has been talk about this for a while. As you know, her real life husband, John Hennigan, or as we know him as John Morrison, is currently one of the top stars in the main roster in WWE, either in Raw. But however, there was talk saying that Morrison would like to have his wife with him because it's kind of simple where we've been seeing married couples together. But there's still no official word coming in yet from both sides whether if this is confirmed or not. But we do know she was in Florida, not recently. Even if you followed her social media, it says it right there. But we will follow up on this to see for sure what Taya Valkyrie has to say or what WWE will say. But the real question is, we know she's a good wrestler. Do we really need to see her in NXT or just jump in with the main roster? I don't know. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode. I hope you love me reviewing this. So stay tuned for another episode of Japanese Wrestling Promotion. You're gonna have 2 DDT events and 1 Tokyo Yoshi Pro. Then after that, we got the New Japan New Beginnings, and of course, we got I think the Wednesday Night War. And after that, there'll be more. So stay tuned for more episodes of Deleted WrestleZone. And as for now, I must bid all of you adieu. So goodbye. Mwah. And have a nice day. Bang.